Hi everybody, thanks for the click. Welcome again to your channel. I hope you are doing well. So as you can see, we are still talking about teaching reading, and today, as you can see, we are going to talk about teaching reading using SQ4R framework. And this is a framework that you can follow, you can use in your classroom to help your students understand better, comprehend the text better. Not only this, but also be a kind of autonomous reader, to be an autonomous reader, to read autonomously, to read alone at home, not only to read, but to read and comprehend, okay, to read, comprehend, and reflect about the text, or make kind of, we can say, connections. This is we can say, the purpose or the goal of using the SQ4R. So when we talk about SQ4R, so S stands for survey, Q stands for question, 4R we have read, we have review, recite, and reflect. So we are going to see what these words stand for, what do these words mean, and how can we apply them in our classroom or in teaching reading in general. So when we talk about reading, we always have a text. So before we read the text, we survey, and when I say we survey the text, which means we try to look at the pictures, we try to read the title, the subtitles if we have some kind of words in bold, etc. So that's what we mean by to survey the text, which means to go through the text quickly, see if we have some pictures, if we have some, we can say title, to read the title. Sometimes we might have some subtitles, etc. So this is to survey the text, and always surveying the text helps students to get an idea, a general idea about the text. And surveying the text, studying the text, always takes place in the pre-reading phase, okay? So that's what we mean by to survey the text, which means to study the text so as to have a general idea about the text. Now, questions. What do we mean by questions? And when we say questions, which means to turn the title or subtitles into questions, to anticipate or predict some questions that the text might answer. So it's better to write them on a piece of paper or a notebook. So to write the questions that you think the text is answering, or when you turn the title or subtitles into questions. So this is what we mean by two questions, all right? And as you can see, both of them can take place before reading, in the pre-reading phase, all right? Now when we talk about reading, so here you have studied the text, you have some questions in mind, you have turned the title and subtitles into questions. Now you are going to read. You are going to read with the idea you have, that you made, you have questions in mind, so we are going to read the text and try to answer the questions you made. Try to answer the questions you made. So here we can say to read and answer the questions, okay? To answer the questions you made. And you can also write the answers, okay? So you can write the answer, okay? You can write the answer of your questions. Now, what if the text does not answer your questions? What you are going to do is very simply to take some kind of notes. So you can take notes. So when you are reading, when you read a text, you answer the questions you made before, you write the answers, and you take notes. So this is what you are going to do in the reading phase, okay? To answer questions, to take note, to answer questions and write them. Okay, so this is the reading phase. Now when we talk about review, here we can say in the post-reading phase. So here you can go back to your note, you read your note, you can go back to your answers, to the answers of your questions. You can, we can say, summarize your note, okay, to summarize your note. So the general purpose behind the review is to remember, okay? Is to remember the information or the note you have, to remember the information about the text you read. So to summarize the note, you have to read again your note and your answers to remember. So this is the purpose, is to remember your note, to remember the information you came across in the text, okay? So this is for reviewing the text. Now when we talk about reciting, reciting it as if you transform what you have in the short-term memory to the long-term memory. So here you understand, you remember better, okay? To remember well. So and here sometimes you can write, for example, a kind of summary, of what you read about the text. All right. You can write something like a paragraph about the text. So again here the purpose is to remember much better. So we recite. Now here you go back to your notes that you have here, but here you don't go to your notes. You just write from your mind. You try to make a summary, you try to write a paragraph about the text, etc. To summarize the text and so on, without going back to the text, without going back to your note. So here you're just trying to recite what you have learned, what you have in your mind. Now this is the reciting. Now when we talk about reflecting, reflecting is beyond this. So here you go beyond the reading, beyond the text, to make a kind of connections. And when they say to make a kind of connections, which means to relate to the topic of the reading, the information you have came across, you have learned from the text, to what you already know. All right, so what you already know about the topic of the text. All right. It also means to make connections with your previous readings, okay, what you read before, to relate the text with your previous readings, to make a kind of connections with other issues. For example, the text is about a certain issue, a certain problem, and you try to compare it or link it or match it with another issue, for example. So this is the SQ4R framework. So survey, question, read, review, recite, and reflect. And as I said before, survey and question in the pre-reading. Reading, to read the text, it is the while reading. And here, students answer the questions, take notes. These are very important skills. Or to help them better understand the text, you can give them other exercises, extra exercises, like for example true or false, or to complete sentences from the text. You give them other questions to answer from the text. Why all this is to understand the text much better. So to review, so students can summarize their notes, going back to their note, to their exercises. Why? Very simply is to remember the information. And to recite, to write a summary about the text, to write a paragraph about the text. So you can give them this as a task to do. And finally, to connect, to match what they learned from this text with their previous readings, with other issues related to the topic of the text. Okay, so this is the SQ4R. I hope you find this easy to learn. If you have any questions or suggestions, don't hesitate to let me know. See you in another episode with another lesson. Have a good time and goodbye.